Good morning, students. Today we are beginning a lesson called Point Line Ray. Before we proceed with this lesson, I want to make sure you have your math notebook and a pencil and a ruler or a straight edge to draw with. If you don't have those, pause this video now and make sure to get them. All right, open up your math notebook to the next clean page. And on the top of that page, go ahead and write Point Line Ray. That's the name of this lesson. That way you'll know where your notes are if you need to find them later on. All right. The most basic unit in geometry is the point. Now, a point is, let's see here, I'm going to draw a point. There we go, a point. There's a point. Now, a point is not, that kind of looks like a circle, doesn't it? Well, what's the difference between a circle and a point? A point is not actually a shape. So I would like you to write this down. Go ahead and write down that word point. Obviously, you've heard of a point before, like the point of a pencil or making a good point, maybe. Now, a point, like this little point here, a point is actually a location. So go ahead and write this down. A point is a location. What is a location? A location is something that tells us where something is. A location is a point that tells us where something is. And a point, technically, in reality, it has no size. That means it's infinitely small. It's tiny. It's not actually a thing that you can pick up. A point is a location. And if you're confused, well, what does that mean? I'll show you a good example here that points out what that means. So here I have a map that shows J.J. Hill Montessori. Now, on this map, we can see a few locations. I see Golden Time Cafe. That's a coffee shop right down the street from our school that I go to. I see our playground right here. I see the play field here that has a little green point on top of it. And here's a red point that shows where J.J. Hill is. Now this is technically a point because it tells us a location. And here's how I want you to think about this. If I walk to J.J. Hill, will I find this big red kind of marker on top of this school? On this map, there's a point here. There's a location here. It's marked by this big red marker. But if I walk to J.J. Hill, will I find this big red mark on top of the school? I won't. This point tells us where J.J. Hill is, but the point is not an actual physical thing that I can go see. So it's what we call a coordinate. It's a place. And a GPS, this is from Google Maps here, this picture, and it uses a global positioning system to find this point on a map. And it tells me where this point is, where this location is, but it's not an actual thing that I can go and see if I walked around. So that is a point. Let's go back up to our notes. So a point is a location. It has no size. And another word that we can use for this is a coordinate. That's another word we use for a location or a point, a coordinate. What is your coordinate? What's your place? What's your space? Something that we use in GPS and maps and in geometry. All right, going to move on here. So I do want you to, if I'm writing it down here, I do want you to write that down in your notebook. These are notes that you can use. Now, I just want to make a comment about notes real quick. What if I have like an idea? Like what if I like it helps me to draw? Like what if I need to draw a little map in my notes? And that like really helps me remember the point that Jeff was making in a lesson. go ahead. Notes are yours. Your notes are for you, and they are there to help you understand something that you learned about. So your notes don't have to look exactly like this. Maybe you have a colored pencil at home and you want to color code different words, and you have an idea in your head that makes sense for you. Then you write that down that way. Oh, that turned interesting. Your notes are for you. I just want to emphasize that. And so if there's a special way that you like to write something down, go ahead. All right, moving on. So here's our map. It shows a coordinate. It shows a point there that I can't see in real life, because in real life, a point has no size. Now, when I when I place 2 points, here I have 2 points now. When I place 2 points, I can run a line through those points. And if I run a line through those 2 points, it creates what we call a line. Fancy word. A line. So I'd like you to, at this point now, I'm going to have you go into Schoology. So I'm going to have you pause the video and go into Schoology, and then I'm going to have you experiment with the line tool, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment here. And while you're experimenting with the line tool, I just want you to write down what I notice. Put this in your notebook, what I notice. You can pause anytime here if you need to. What do I notice? So what do I notice when I'm experimenting with the line tool? So I'm going to show you now how to find that in Schoology, and then we're going to do a little playing around with the line tool. I'm going to have you do that on your own here. So in Schoology, I'm going to press the home button. I'm going to find Schoology here. And we are in week 2 right now, September 14 through 18. It's a green folder on top. And we're looking at our weekly work right now. In our weekly work, I see geometry down at the bottom. And there's a link here at the top here. It says experiment with the line tool. Let's try it out. When I open that up, it's going to open up a fun tool that we can experiment with. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and here's my line tool. So I want you to play around with this a little bit. Grab point A or point B on the line and move it around and tell me what you notice about that. So I'll let you play with that by yourself for a bit. And when you're done playing around with that, go ahead and come on back to the lesson, and you'll press play again, and we'll resume from there. All right, so what did I notice? Well, one thing that I noticed, and at this point, if you didn't notice these things, I would like you to write them down. Make sure you've got this in your notebook. All right, what do I notice? I notice that the line, make sure you write this down if you don't already have it, is straight. So a line is always straight. In geometry, a line is never curved. All right, a line is never curved in geometry. Now, something else that doesn't quite show up in that picture is that a line, it has no thickness. So just like a point is super, super infinitely small, you can't actually see it. It just tells you about a place on a map. A line does the same thing. So a line, it runs through 2 points, but it has no actual size. So if we were to connect 2 locations on a map, you wouldn't actually see that in real life, even though you could see it on that map. And so we're going to put that down because we haven't quite gotten to things that are really big yet. So we'll say that it has no size in real life. And the last thing that we would say, and this might not be totally obvious, well, you'll be able to see it on that tool, if you're playing around with it, is that the tool looks kind of like this. It's like this little square here. And you'll see that you have a point, you have 1 point, and you have another point, and that this line that connects these 2 points here, I'm going to draw that one more time just a little bit better here. There we go. It extends on forever on either side of that box. You can't actually tell where it ends, right? So if I were to draw it on here, it would look maybe look a little bit more like this. It extends on forever. You can never really tell where it ends. So we say that a line has no size, and we also say that it extends forever. We can say that word infinitely. That's kind of a cool word. I'm going to write that down. Infinite. Infinitely. All right, that is a line.